Hello everyone, it's Angel from GemTCG here, and in today's video I'll be talking about a topic that a lot of you may be leaving money on the table and potentially throwing money away. And for some prior context, when I first started buying and selling Pokemon cards, one of the main things I was buying was vintage Pokemon cards, like in the WotC era. And considering that those cards were like 22 years old when I first started, I would often get a lot of collections where the cards would be very dirty or damaged, or even sometimes in like a German or Spanish language. And as someone who's very like clean, like I hate touching dirty things, when I would get these cards and they were like extremely dirty, first I would of course message the seller and say, I don't buy like damaged cards. I can't pay full price for these, so I could return them to you for a refund, or I would try to work something out with them. Because on my post, I would say like I'm buying near mint and light played vintage cards at these prices, and if they fell below that, I would message the seller for like a refund. And most times they would just say, I'll refund you and you could keep the cards because I don't want them anymore. So when I would get these like dirty cards, I wouldn't want to handle them and like put them in with my near mint cards. So most times I would literally just throw them away. And when I was buying huge collections, sometimes there would be like a few hundred cards in there that I would just toss away because I didn't want to deal with damaged and dirty cards. And then one time I did this and I bought a collection with a bunch of dirty like damaged Wizards of the Coast holo cards. And I couldn't get myself to throw them away because I knew that holo cards are very rare from that era. And no matter what, they could get like a few dollars here and there on depending on which card it is. So I couldn't get myself to throw them away. So I was like, let me just take all these cards and then auction them off on eBay and see what happens. And I would say it was probably like a few hundred cards, maybe 200 cards with a few hollows in there. And I ran the auction off and I was pretty shocked with the results of that auction. It ended up selling for like a few $100s. And I was like, wow, there's no way I just made this much money from cards that one, I got refunded for because the seller didn't want them anymore and I was just going to throw them away. And two, it kind of made me upset because I realized how much money I was throwing away from just not wanting to deal with these cards and just tossing them in the trash. And so I wanted to make this video to let you guys know that when you get these damaged cards, or in some cases people throw away their bulk. I've heard so many stories where people will be like, oh, I wish I found you sooner, I just threw away 20,000 cards. And I'm like, how can you throw away 20,000 cards? There's so much you could do with all of that inventory. And people see it as junk instead of seeing it as something that could be turned into value. And recently, with the picture on this thumbnail, I ran an auction for around like 1,000 cards that I sourced over the few like months, because I'm always buying vintage collections and I'm always running into issues with some people. Just, I don't know if they don't look at the cards when they sell them to me, or they don't know like what's a moderately played and worse card. So they would just ship me all their cards and then I'd go through it, message the seller. Of course, I always ask if they want them back. I could return them, no problem. I don't try to take advantage and be like, oh, these cards are all damaged, send me a refund, because that's not right and you guys should not be doing that. Always be honest and transparent with the people that you buy from. But if you do get cards that are damaged and you specify that you only buy near mint and light played cards, then of course you can message the seller and request a return or a partial refund or something like that. And most times they would be willing to, because nobody wants, or not a lot of people want damaged cards. So most times they'll just say, keep them, I'll send you the refund. And then instead of just like tossing them or doing whatever, you could take all those cards and run a bulk auction. And I've noticed that the bigger the lot, the more you'll make from it, which is pretty obvious, but like it's exponentially bigger to in a certain extent, because if you're just doing like 100 cards, it's whatever. But if you have 1,000 cards, you will get a lot of attraction to that listing, because the way auctions work is that the more people click on it and put their bids in, the higher the price will go. So the more traffic you can get to that listing, the higher the price will go. So if you're having a big collection that will attract a lot of people, you will get a higher price that the item would sell for. And in terms of bulk, if you are someone that just throws your bulk away, and I'm sure most of you guys aren't, because if you're watching these videos, you're probably more in tuned with like what value you can get from the cards you have. But if you are someone that throws your bulk away, or you know people that throw their bulk away, you should really stop doing that, because you are literally throwing money away. And if you ever have something that you don't know if it's worth anything, or you don't know what the value is, just throw it up on eBay, make an auction, and 9 times out of 10, it will sell for like around the average price that it normally would if you were to do a buy now listing. And if you get big enough lots, you will make probably more value than you would if you were to just single them out and list them all as singles. Because I did try that method when I realized that auctioning off these damaged cards can actually get you a lot of money. I tried to do it by like auctioning them off as singles, and a lot of times they would just sell for $1. Even if it was like a damaged Mewtwo card, base set Mewtwo, it would sell for like $2. So I realized that doing it like that was not worth it, and people don't want individual damaged cards, but they wouldn't mind a entire collection. And I'm not sure why these people are buying damaged card collections, but there must be some value in there that people are willing to go through them and list them out, because it's pretty crazy how much value goes in, or how much people are willing to pay for these collections. Like right now I have all of these, like this card is like extremely curved, and just a bunch of like, even this Blastoise, it's pretty heavily played. You can't really tell, but it's pretty heavily played right there. And then I just let these pile up and keep growing, usually like a month or two at a time, depending on how many collections I've been buying that had vintage cards in there. And once it gets to a high enough extent, I will run the auction. And I run it for like 7 days. Started at 99 cents. I'll charge $8 shipping, because usually it's a big collection, so it's worth it to pay, or like it gets pretty expensive to ship those. And I found that running the auctions on like a Sunday at 6 p.m., like around that time, if you run a 7-day auction at 6 p.m., you will most times sell for higher than you would if you were to do it at like a Tuesday at 2 p.m., or like some random time that people wouldn't really be able to buy stuff on their phone or on their laptop. So timing of auctions really does help. And you want to take the most amount of pictures as possible. Like I think eBay allows 24 pictures, and when I do these listings, I'll show all the hollows and like a bunch of pictures of the hollows, show all the rares, and then separate out like the cool common and uncommon cards, show those. So you just want to let the potential buyers know exactly what's going to be in there. And then you could also put a lot of info in the description. Like I'll usually put, there's 4 first edition hollows, 3 rares, 20 regular hollow rares, and just list out everything with the numbers of what will be in there, because that will, one, show a lot of trust in the people that are looking at the listings. Like they'll see you as a trusted seller. And 2, it'll help people know exactly what's in there, because if you're just clicking on a listing and you see a picture with like a stack of cards, you're not going to know exactly what's in there, and it's hard to tell how many cards are in there based on a picture. Like you can get a rough estimate, but you won't know an accurate amount. So having that accurate amount will help a lot, and will get people to want to bid on that listing. And this works for even like Sword and Shield era cards, you could do it with, or like Scarlet Violet, any era. I just do it separately for the vintage cards, because it attracts like a different buyer. And if you do Scarlet Violet, Sword and Shield, that will attract a different buyer as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the vintage damaged cards, or like any damaged cards. You could do this with any damaged cards, not just vintage, but basically pile up those cards over time. whenever you get a card that's damaged, keep it to the side and like let it build up. And then once you get a huge amount, run an auction, and you will be pretty shocked at how high it goes. And then if you have bulk or just regular like common uncommon bulk that you don't see the value in and you just think you like it's a waste of space so you throw it away, run an auction for it on eBay and you will get a huge amount of money from it. Because even with mine, I had a bunch of Japanese One Piece cards that I bought a while ago because I thought it would do well in bulk lots, and I ended up selling like maybe one or two like 1,000 card lots, and then I've been sitting on the rest for like at least, I think honestly, a year or two. And I was contemplating just getting rid of it all, like maybe even tossing it or donating it. But I was like, let me throw it up on an auction, like a full large flat rate box of 7,000 cards. And then I ran it 7 days, 99 cents. I charged $20 in shipping because that's how much it costs to ship those boxes. And it sold for $100. And this is normally something that I would have just donated or given away. And I guess it's not right to compare donating something and then selling it, but it had no value. It was just sitting there, taking up space, and then leaving a lot of clutter. And I paid around like $5 per 1,000 cards for those. So being able to turn that $5 per 1,000 and then selling it for like $13 per 1,000, it's a pretty big profit margin. That's like almost 2.5 times. But it's something that I would have never realized that value if I didn't just run an auction and try to get it sold in a huge bulk lot. But yeah, the main takeaway of this video is that there is huge value in numbers. So if you have huge collections, you will get a lot bigger payout if you do an auction on eBay than if you have just a small amount of stuff. So if you ever are to run auctions, make sure you can do the biggest amount possible instead of doing like a very small amount here and there. So to do that, just let things pile up over time and be patient with those type of items, and it will grow eventually. And then once it gets too much to where it's like an eyesore, just run the auction and just see how much you get from it. And then the second thing is never throw cards away, because you're literally throwing money away if you do that. Unless it's like, you know, extremely dirty or something, like you don't even want to have it in your house, that's a different story. But if it's like a regular damage or just like some dirt on the card, don't throw them away, but instead auction them off, and you will make a lot of money from that. And a side tip on the auction thing is that you want to start it at $1. You can charge shipping on those. Like I found giving free shipping and giving shipping that costs money, it doesn't really change the fact of like how much it'll sell for. So that being said, you should charge the shipping because it'll sell for the same amount anyways, but then you'll get the shipping cost covered, so you don't have to worry about that. So even if it sells for $1 but they cover the shipping, that's still better than like nothing, because you get a sale, feedback, and you're basically getting paid to ship something away. And then run them on Sundays around like the middle of the day, like probably like 5 p.m. to maybe 8 or 9 p.m. That's usually the best time and the recommended time to run auctions, because you have the most people on their phones, on their laptops, and they would be willing to like look for auctions at that time. And you want to be as descriptive as possible. Take as many pictures as you can without it being like unnecessary, and then be very transparent with the description, because people will buy from people that they trust. And if you can show that they can trust you from the pictures and the description, you will get a better result on your auctions. But yeah, I hope you guys found that video helpful, and I hope this will help you realize that there is value in damaged cards and in bulk, but the main thing is the damaged cards. But yeah, you guys should definitely try this out and see what it gets for you, and I hope it goes well. But yeah, see you guys.